Now, this is an extension of Good Morning Uganda, where still we make sure we bring topics to you that require national attention, and we have guests or a guest in studio with whom we deliberate on these issues. Now, this morning, we are honored and privileged to have the Executive Director, Federation of Uganda Employers, Opio Douglas, with whom we are going to be discussing a number of issues, more so the Employer of the Year Awards. Douglas.
Yes, sir.
Most welcome to our studios.
Great pleasure. Great pleasure.
Well, Douglas, just to have a smooth start, when we talk about Federation of Uganda Employers, many would wonder, you have a number of federations.
Yeah, sure.
What do you do? Are you what is your mandate, or what is your role?
Okay, thank you so much. The Federation of Uganda Employers is a member-based organization, actually quite old. We have been around since 1960. And we do mainly three things. First, we do lobbying and advocacy for the employers, mainly for a good business environment. Then secondly, we focus a lot on issues of employment relations and legal matters, those linked to labor and employment. And that's basically why we're here today. Thirdly, we focus a lot on business support. Sometimes employers want to recruit, sometimes they want to design business strategies, sometimes they want to just ensure they're doing responsible business. So we support them in all ways. We are part of what you would call the tripartite. The tripartite in our context is the government, the employers, and the trade unions. So together, those three try to provide an harmonious working environment. So working with the government and the trade unions, we engage as much as possible in dialogue so that the workplace is good for us all.
Having told us about the workplace and how you ensure that you advocate for the specific group, you told us it is voluntarily.
Yes, it's voluntary.
How many members do you have?
At the moment, we have 647 members. Our membership is open to all employers, whether you're a small employer or a big employer. Also, even in the public sector. By the way, I'm quite privileged and honored to have even the Office of the Prime Minister as a member. So even in the public sector, we have the Office of the Prime Minister, we have several parastatals, those national water, where our chairman comes from, the Uganda Revenue Authority, Civil Aviation Authority. All of them, we are so glad that they are keen to promote good employment practices. And then in the private sector, we have the big companies like the MTNs, the Coca-Colas, the Standard Chartered, the big companies in Uganda, but also very small ones like Baokwa, a very small company, but led by a serious youth trying to deal with waste management. And of course, aside from the companies, we also have the not-for-profit entities like the World Visions, Save the Children, and then besides individual employers coming to us, we also have associations. So associations, we have about 27 of them, like the Bankers Association, the Constructors Association, Insurers, the Tea Association, most of the major associations that you're aware of.
Well, I've just come from COVID-19. I know for the last about 5 years, except this spell of COVID-19, you've been organizing Employer of the Year Awards.
Absolutely.
And this time around, you're organizing the same. 2022. Take us through to understand what are the benefits, what values do these awards create to the employers, and maybe, if any, to the employees.
Absolutely. The bottom line of the Employer of the Year Award, which we have been running, by the way, since 2001, you're very right. Due to COVID, we couldn't run it in the past few years. But we have been privileged to have run the survey for close to 20 years now. Now, the survey focuses on good employment practices. We want, as much as possible, the level of productivity to be high, the level of compliance with the law to be high. But also, we generally want to document good practices. What distinguishes one employer from another? And what can employers, for instance, would have a lower level of productivity, learn from a high-performing company. So it's intended to document good practices, to recognize employers who are upholding these good practices, but also to give others a chance to learn from that. Away from that, we are keen to improve the overall HR system in the country, so these good practices, these case studies are also used at universities. Aside from this, of course, is to recognize good employment practices. We have a number of young, innovative entrepreneurs. They deserve a place to be recognized for the exceptional work they do. They are the big businesses of tomorrow. So that's basically why we undertake the Employer of the Year Award survey.
Mm-hmm. Now let's understand who are the people that you're looking out for?
Yeah.
Because if I'm to compete, you've talked about parastatal government. So I see an imbalance somewhere. You have these big companies that may have human resource managers, maybe complying with NSSF, maybe complying with tax. Then you have these small companies, these small employers that are just, I have 2 or 3 people and they are your members.
Sure.
So what is that you're looking for that unifies all in a competition?
Now, in order for us to address the unique needs of the various categories of employers, the award is not a single award. So we have several categories recognizing those differences. For instance, you can't have the parastatals competing with the companies. So we have a special category of awards specifically for the parastatals. Again, you can't, for instance, have a parastatal, although it's government, competing with the ministry. The structures are slightly different. So we have an opportunity for the parastatals to compete among themselves, an opportunity for the ministries, which in this case, there are about 10 of them participating, also competing among themselves. We have a broader category for NGOs competing among themselves. We have opportunity for companies to compete. We also have what we call special categories of these awards. For instance, companies that are employing refugees in their workplaces, companies that ensure that their workplaces are inclusive as far as disability is concerned, also companies that are working towards the elimination of child labor. So that's how we try to address the imbalance. But besides trying to address the imbalance with the categories, we know overall there should still be a standard that is upheld by all. Whether you're a small employer or you're a big employer, it doesn't matter. You have to pay your taxes, you have to comply with NSSF, you have to have safety and health in your workplace. You have to ensure that the level of productivity is high. You have to ensure you have sound systems. So in that regard, we have an overall winner. So we have the overall winner and then the runner-up and of course the second runner-up as well. So the survey is designed in such a manner that everybody has a place to be recognized.
Very interesting. We're just coming from COVID-19 and we know a number of companies may not have sailed through.
Yeah, sure.
We know many could have sailed through, but with a skeleton number of employees.
I agree.
When I look at the theme for this year's competition, bring out the element of resiliency. Take us through how this COVID-19 time when we were at the epitome of disease, how did it affect your members?
I think the effect of COVID-19 has been devastating, I should say. Devastating in the sense that it caught companies unprepared. No one thought we could have a global lockdown. It was just unthinkable. If you told somebody in 2019 that there would be no flights, there would be no movement at all, the transportation system, the logistics system would be completely disrupted, no one would have believed. And this is exactly why we need to recognize employers who despite those difficult circumstances, things that they couldn't have predicted, but they managed to thrive through. They managed to put in place systems that allowed them to continue, that allowed them to thrive despite the very difficult circumstances. So thus, for many of my members, it has gotten even more complicated, especially this year with inflation, which is a global challenge. I see the government in Uganda has done incredibly well to try and confront inflation and keep it within a single digit, but elsewhere around the world we know inflation is skyrocketing. But nevertheless, the implication on the companies are serious. We know how the fuel prices are rising, for instance. So that basically increases a lot of the cost. In Uganda, our companies rely a lot on road transportation. So once fuel prices increase, you have an immediate impact on business. You don't have to wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Immediately, the companies get the effect because their raw materials, their sourcing places becomes very difficult. And for some of them, I sympathize a lot. Like for instance, in the tourism and hospitality, food prices beginning to rise again, but they're just coming from a situation of almost zero business. So some sectors have been seriously hit.
Let's talk about who are the people that are going to participate in this, and what methodology or research methods did you follow to come up with these specific categories or these groups of people?
This particular survey is actually a special one, so to call it. We try to use modern methodologies, and this is also precisely the reason why we don't do it as FUE. So we have partnered with the researchers from Makerere University, who then designed the methodology. That also gives this survey its unique identity when you compare it with other HR surveys, for instance, in the market. So what we do, we do the survey with the employer, but also with the employees. So the assessment is rigorously done through a survey tool that is administered to the employees working in the company, but it's also administered to the employer or the CEO. After doing the administering of the survey, we do a second round of the work, which we call verification. Verification is intended to prove beyond reasonable doubt that what you're saying in the survey is exactly what you have in your workplace. So if you say you have this particular system in place, we actually want to see the evidence. So we then engage the companies again for a second round, a rigorous process to try and identify what they wrote or the survey responses, do they correspond with the reality. So that way, the quality of the survey is guaranteed.
After giving us this survey, now, how do people come to be part of this? Because you know, for every competition, there's a vetting bit of it, there's level of application into this, or are you just going to move out and say, we've identified, we've been carrying out a survey, therefore you're the best candidate and you qualify to be the winner of the Employee of the Year Awards 2021-2022?
Thank you so much. You're right. We had to go through an application phase. That phase already closed about a month ago. So what we do at that phase is companies express interest to participate in the survey. The survey is completely free of charge, whether you're a small company or a big company or you're a parastate or an NGO, you simply apply. And then we do the initial verification. Because you don't want a situation, for instance, a briefcase organization participating in a survey. So you actually verify to see, does this company exist? Does it have an area of operation? Does it have employees? Does it at least meet the minimum standards? So we do the first level of checks, which is just to ensure that is the company good enough to qualify to participate in the survey? So this is basically what we do, but that phase already closed sometimes back. For those who are interested, now they should be looking forward to the next survey in 2023.
Yeah. Very interesting, and of course we know everyone works for somebody, either your clients, but here we are looking at the best employer of the year. Most at this trying moment, just when you are coming from the economy being hit by COVID-19, a number of employers could not make it. Others have given up on best practices for survival. Others, benefits are no longer benefits, leave. One will tell you, I need a skeleton number of employees.
Yeah.
And then they must work tooth and nail or work to elements of break their backs because I need to maximize profits. Here are people, the Federation of Uganda Employers, which says, let's look for those that even in such a trying moment have persisted, have held on to good practices. Now, going back to good practices, Douglas, let's understand, do they also include conformity with the law in terms of paying your taxes, NSSF, these other requirements? Or are we just looking at employer to employee relationship? Do you have medical? Do you have all this? Or because most of the times you find that there are some employers that may be good in relations, but dodging taxes, dodging remittances and all that, that's where there's a problem.
You know, and thank you so much for raising that. In our case, we pride ourselves in saying every good employer is a member of the Federation of Uganda Employers. So at the very least, to be a good employer, you must meet the minimum standards. You must pay your taxes, whether they're pay as you earn or whether they're income tax. You must make the necessary contributions to NSSF. So this is a minimum. In fact, if you don't do those, you don't even qualify to participate. So that's the least we expect of you. But we look at this survey more holistically. Now, just to give put a bit of context to it, for instance, this year we are looking at employer resilience. But resilience is a function of about 6 building blocks. Now, the first aspect we look at is technological advancement, technological application. How do you apply technology in your business? You understand, for instance, during this period of COVID, a lot of companies had to readjust, including ourselves, by the way, at the Federation. We had to begin to do trainings online. We had never thought about that, but it's working quite well. Secondly is the issue of financial. Because to be able to manage a difficult situation like this pandemic, your financial systems must be good. Your ability to manage your cost must be good. So we are trying to see also resilience in terms of finance. What have you actually done? Thirdly, the issue of operations. How is your operation? How are you managing the daily operations? Are you handling the reporting systems? Are you managing the demands from your customers, which has to be met differently? Some people are calling off orders and stuff like that. How do you manage that? So the overall operations, that's the third element. Fourth is the organizational aspect. That is where mostly the human resource element falls. Yeah, but it's not just about the human resource, it's also about the systems that allow this human resource to function well. For instance, systems like remote work. Are you managing it with remote work? Are your employees able to continue to engage, to be at work without necessarily having to report physically? You know, in 2019, if you told somebody your employee can work from home, somebody would wonder, is that possible? Productivity would go down. But COVID-19 has shown us that is actually possible. And there are companies that have excelled in that. They even have policies that guide their work from home. Fifth element is the issue of reputation. You could be doing certain things, but you're a nuisance as far as the general public is concerned. Yeah. It's not just about meeting the business targets, but also ensuring that, for instance, you respect the environment, you respect issues of child labor, you are a workplace which is inclusive. If I'm disabled, I can comfortably work with you. If I'm a woman, maybe I would not be discriminated because of my gender and stuff like that. So the element of reputation, meaning we look at the company beyond the workplace. We look at the company also with the surrounding issues. And then the sixth element we look at is the business model. So with the business model, we're looking at what adjustments have you made? Yeah. What adjustments have you made during these COVID times to ensure that your business is able to adapt, not to close? In some cases, some people have just decided to open new business lines. Just to give you an example, when we started off at the beginning of COVID-19 in 2020, there was only one company making sanitizers. But as I speak now, perhaps I don't know the latest number as of this week, maybe we are close to 60 now. Just the other day, over 50 companies had already registered and were providing sanitizers. So some decided to change the area of production. Some decided to use systems that allowed them to reach their customers in a different way. Some went online. You might have seen some companies reducing on office space. If you move around town now, you increasingly see a lot of empty spaces. That's because companies have redesigned their business model. So those are the 6 areas. It's not just about people. People are important and they're core to us, but the broader things that supports these people performance to raise the overall level of productivity.
Well, we're still with, that is Pio Douglas, who is the Executive Director, Federation of Uganda Employers. And we are looking at the employer survey that was conducted, but also looking ahead towards the Employer of the Year Awards, where the best employer will be awarded. And we'll now be going for a very short commercial break. And when we return, we'll still now discuss more, and we shall dive into these awards, specifically what awaits and to what stage have they reached. He said vetting, nomination was done. Now we want to know to what stage. For you out there to understand, I would be eager to know who will make it 2021 Employer of the Year. We return.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Bachitozoka no chonda bakonga tona ginda. Omukwano bususe baby. Yo amanya ne dobozi bitwa Dr. Jose Kabile sana Simba tako katageja meji Uganda. UBC West. Abantu bembarara. Music time you don't know. Trisanga yuko university in.
All in one, the biggest party of 2022 is here. UBC West MP Kahona launches its Mbarara station on Goat Road in Mbarara City with your favorite entertainer, Echitimburecha UBC West on 23rd July 2022 at Mbarara University Inn. People of Ankole, Chisoro, Tigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Rwenzori and all parts of Uganda. Do not miss your cocktail of fun with UBC West presenters, listeners and supporters. Come, be part of the 2022 biggest party in the land. With top artists, comedians, cultural dancers and ODs, women cyclists in the cycling competition, sports activities and many more from Western and Central Uganda at only 10,000 shillings. Don't miss the annual crowd puller of UBC West MP Kahona, and that is Etitimbure Reikunga. Proudly powered by Pepsi Cola, Delight Solar and UBC.
For sponsorship and partnership, call 0700-236-415 or 0782-265-827. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
National Council for Higher Education will hold the 4th Annual Higher Education Conference on the 14th and 15th September 2022. The conference theme is Enhancement of Teaching, Learning and Assessment with Ordeal in Higher Education. The guest of honor will be the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Honorable Janet Kataha Museveni. The conference will be held physically at Hotel Africana for only invited guests and open to online participants via Zoom webinar that will be shared under the events section at www.unche.or.ug. The keynote speakers are Ezra Nazim, Senior Fellow of Higher Education Academy UK, Professor Henk Gerald Sola, a Dutch organizational theorist and Emeritus Professor of Business, Engineering and ICT at Groningen University, the Netherlands. The National Council for Higher Education is receiving papers from researchers and scholars for publication in the Uganda Higher Education Review, Journal of National Council for Higher Education. For more details, send inquiries to cmuhumuza@unche.org. info@unche.or.ug or call 0783 040024 or 0704 800926 plus 256 39 32 62 140/4.
Water gives life. Water is life. But not all water is created equal. Refresh yourself with the new quality Nirvana packaged drinking water and fuel you and your passion to go further in life. Visit a shop near you and grab a 250 ml at 400 shillings, 500 ml at 500 shillings, 1.5 liters at 1,500 shillings, or a 20-liter jumbo bottle at 18,000 shillings only. Nirvana is a product of Crown Beverage Limited, the makers of Pepsi products.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. It is still Good Morning Uganda Extra, and I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyintono with the Executive Director, Federation of Uganda Employers, Opio Douglas, with whom we are discussing issues regarding employers abiding by the set rules to improve the welfare, but also abide by the laws of this country that govern employment. And above all, very interesting, for about two years we've not been having it. That is the Employer of the Year Awards. And here they are back, 2021, 2022. Now, Opio, you've told us about how the nomination, the vetting was done. Now, at which stage are these awards?
We are actually in the final stage. As I speak now, the survey team has completed its work. We do it through a three-phase process. First, we identify these good practices, and then secondly, we rank, and then thirdly, we recognize. So we have done the first phase of identifying through the survey, which we administered. We have also done the ranking through the verification exercise that we had to take. So basically, what is going on are final quality assurance. But the winners are already known. They are not known to me, of course. They keep it like top secret until the very day. So myself, I don't know, with the exception of the quality assurance team. And then the award event itself will be later on Thursday evening on 21st.
21st, this very month.
Yeah, on Thursday this week. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Very interesting. They're here, and of course, good that it has been. I want to believe.
Yes.
You know, every time we have competitions in this country, Sometimes
Yeah,
people query the process.
Yeah.
You know, how did you recognize? How did you get? We were under the federation.
Yeah.
You didn't come to us.
Yeah.
But also I want to know, is this strictly to members of the federation? Because I believe the number of employers there that wouldn't be, maybe they are not yet members.
Yeah.
Though we urge them to be members.
Yeah.
So is this restricted to only, was the entire process to only members?
No, the survey is actually open to all employers. As long as you meet the minimum requirements, basically, which is to be a good employer. It doesn't matter if you're a member of the federation or not. In the past, we have had actually quite a number of companies winning awards, but they were not members of the federation. Of course, later on, they realized what they're missing as well, so they joined, but participating before becoming members. So it's not a requirement to be a member.
I'm triggered to understand what is that one misses, an employer misses out of being a member of the federation?
Now, many things. The first, which any reasonable employer does, is to network with peers at that level. So you miss an opportunity to be part of a network that can enrich your own business growth. No business can grow by simply looking inward. It's not possible. You have to be expansive. You have to reach out. Networking is the first. Secondly, we are the best when it comes to people risk management. When it comes to you understanding what are the risks that I'm likely to face with my business as far as employees are concerned. We sort you properly on that. And you increasingly see when we go to the industrial court, employers lose cases. Why do they lose cases? Because they don't have that basic understanding of what is required of them as employers. So if you're a member of the federation, there's zero chance that will happen to you. Even if you were to be taken to court, you'll definitely win because we would guide you through a step-by-step process. Now, thirdly is what we do. Not just the Employer of the Year award survey, but we document a lot of other good practices. We document, for instance, pay levels. Are you paying wages which are competitive? Everybody knows that it's very difficult to recruit a new employee all the time. You become like a sort of a training ground. So each time you train people and they leave, one of the most important motivators for employees is wages. So you have to first pay the right level of salary before you start talking about any other thing. Meet the minimum, that the person is able to come to work freely, the person is in a position to take care of the needs of the family, in a position to have decent accommodation. Once the minimum is met, then you can also expect a higher level of productivity from the employees. But aside from that, we also bring in the element of global good practices. Yeah, so because we are not just an employers organization in Uganda, we are affiliated to the East African Employers Organization. We are also affiliated to Business Africa, which is the employers organization of Africa. We are also affiliated at the global level to the International Organization of Employers. So we bring good practices from that level as well. For instance, personally, I am the chair of the ILO Global Business Network.
That's the International Labour Organization.
Exactly. International Labour Organization, you're right. So on forced labor based in Geneva. And then aside from these things, we are lobbying an advocacy organization. It's very difficult to try and deal with your issues as a single company. But when you have a collective voice, and that's why we call ourselves the voice of employers. When you're a collective voice, your issue is more likely to be addressed much faster. We address it at the technical level, engaging with the ministries, whether gender or finance, Ministry of Health and others. But we also have a higher level of engagement with the Office of the President. So through being a part of us, you can also regularly have engagement with the Fountain of Honor, which is very important for businesses as well. Yeah.
Rightly said. Well, those are the enormous benefits that any employer should be able to tap into. But also another related in the same.
Yeah.
How does one become a member of this federation? Are there specific requirements? I employ about 2 or 3 people at home.
Yeah.
Should I be a registered company, or do I just come? I'm like, I have people I employ. I want to tap into benefit. You know, one of the things is knowledge. And I find that there is so much knowledge in this federation.
Absolutely. So what we do, at the moment, we deal with only formal entities. So it means you have to be legally registered. You could be legally registered as an NGO, you could be legally registered as a company. So in a form, you could be legally registered as a cooperative, so any form of registration is acceptable for us, or even as an association. So that's the first minimum requirement. Then secondly, you should be employing people. Yeah, it doesn't matter how many you're employing, but you should be employing people. In other words, it defeats the definition of an employer if you're not employing anybody. If you're self-employed. So those are the minimum requirements. And then, of course, we expect at the very least for you to be compliant with the existing laws, NSSF, pay as you earn, income tax. So that's the basic requirement. And then when you apply to join, we just do a check of those basic things, and you have 6 different categories from which to choose. So we have defined packages based on your ability. Yeah, there are companies that you would be surprised, employ very few, but their turnover is actually quite high. Yeah, very few people, very high turnover, especially in the banking sector and also in the telecom, where a number of things have been outsourced. You still have employers who might not, so we don't categorize based on the number of your employees or your turnover. You simply choose a category that fits your requirements as an organization. So these 6 categories are, the first one, we call it zinc, is just 400,000 a year, which is extremely cheap, actually. It means you're paying less than 30,000 a month. But to have somebody who can advise you all year round, who can provide guidance and support your business, extremely cheap. Then you have second category, we call it copper, which is at the 800 level. Then we have the bronze category, which is at 1.5. Then we have silver, which is 2 million, gold at 2.5. The highest category is platinum, which is at 3 million. So if you want a little bit more detail, you can always get in touch with us on our website. If you Google Federation of Uganda Employers, Google will make your work easy. And then you just go on our website, download the form, fill, and send to us. It's as simple as that.
Well, Douglas, indeed a very interesting discussion that we are having for the employers there and the employees pushing these things. Are we part of the federation? Why not? Because the number of benefits that you stand, both the employees and the employer. And mostly I want to believe the employers. Most of the times you have why some businesses, some companies open up and fail is because you're so individualistic. Absolutely. And you miss out on basic practices that have been developed right from international levels and back home with the Federation of Uganda Employers. Now, as we wind up, what is your parting shot to your members, but also the public?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, first of all, Robert, for having me this morning. And thank you to all our viewers. I appreciate that you took the time to listen to us, to watch this conversation. So just a quick reminder from my side. The Employer of the Year award will take place on 21st in the evening from 5:30 to 10 p.m. at the Kampala Serena Hotel. It's still open for you to participate. You can participate as an individual at just a fee of 500,000 or a table of 8 at 5 million shillings. You can get to us through social media. or our website, and we'd be happy to host you on Thursday. But otherwise, welcome to become a member of the Federation of Uganda Employers. Have a fantastic week ahead, and God bless you all.
Well, thank you so much for being with us this morning. It has been
pleasure.
a fruitful discussion. I know there's so much that the employers have had, but also the employees on how best we can achieve best practice. I'm very eager to know who will take the day as the best employer of the year 2021-2020. Have a lovely day. God bless you.
Thank you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.